Okay, so this is Photoshop Battle 429, and we've got a photo of an ancient Amiga 500 computer with various retro accessories on a desk. I love the almost mysterious atmosphere of the scene, which reminds me of a retro game in itself. So what we're going to try to do this time is make the entire scene appear inside the computer as if it was a classic point-and-click adventure. To make that a bit more interesting, the main challenge I've set myself is to try to adjust the perspective of the scene to make it look more isometric, which is how games from the early 90s might have drawn things in 3D. So here I'm using the perspective warp to make the initial adjustment, and basically the idea here is to make all the vertical and horizontal lines as parallel as possible. As you can see, that leaves a lot of the objects looking distorted, so now we need to fix that. To fix the computer, I'm just going to grab a copy of how it looked in the original image and carefully overlay that on the warped image. Then I have to go around and make sure it blends in seamlessly. Then I'm going to use the puppet warp to continue reshaping individual objects in the scene. So we've got the globe, the stereo, files, joystick, mug, balls, and so on. This still leaves us with some wonky looking edges, so the final adjustment is done using Liquify by hand. Okay, that looks good, so now I've ramped up the colours enormously to make it look like a video game, and added the pixelation effect. Now let's create a point-and-click adventure interface. I'm copying the style from games like Monkey Island, which was one of the most popular point-and-click adventures back in its day, loads of fun. And now I'm going to remove some objects from the scene and show them in the inventory interface instead, so it's like the player has picked them up. So we've got the mouse, the discs, the joystick, the Settler's reference card, another great game from the era, and the book. And I'm just doing these removals really roughly because I know I'm going to pixelate the whole scene later, so these rough edges are all going to be hidden. Next I'm going to bring the objects I removed back into the composition. And now I'm going to warp them so they're all face on, so they appear more like icons in the inventory. I'm also just filling in bits of these objects that were covered in the original image. Finally, I'm going back and tidying up the edits a bit more, because they were so rough they still looked bad even in the pixelated image. And for the finishing touch, I'm adding a classic Amiga mouse pointer. The final step is now to put the whole scene inside the computer screen, so here I'm masking out that shape. And now to make it feel more realistic, if that image really was on the screen, then the light from the screen would cast those colours around the scene, so I'm bleeding the colours out and using them to recolour the edges of the screen and the surrounding room. The finishing touch is to go back to the game scene and use a posterisation effect to reduce the number of colours it contains, because back in the 90s, when games used only 256 colours, you didn't get the smooth gradients that we have today with 16 million colours. As the last thing, I added a stroke around the computer so it looks like the mouse pointer has highlighted that object, and that's it. I hope you like it, let me know what you think.